Okay, loves. So I sucked it up and I pinned it because the audio on my last videos were not the greatest. So the videos that you see with my braids, that was me being hard headed. Okay, I was trying to be cute or whatever. I was trying to hide that mic and everything. So, y'all know I'm gonna forget, so I'm gonna do it now. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that little bell so you can be notified of the videos. This channel is called Beautifully Imbalanced by Deshae Carter. I talk a lot about my experience through life, as far as trauma, business, relationships, things like that. I give tips based off my experience in all of those areas. I also talk about like my struggles with, insecurities, with modeling. Modeling is very challenging, period, but it's even more challenging with my background. So today's episode is unlocking self love, but this is the deep dive. So I'm going to dive into my personal journey, my personal self love journey, and I'm going to dive into my background and talk about some of the things that happened to me. So this is going to get deep. It is going to get personal. If that is something you are uncomfortable with, you might as well leave now. So it is, and it can be triggering to some people. No one knows. I don't know what triggers you. You don't know what triggers me. And as we heal and grow, different things start to trigger us. And so I understand. Okay. You can come back to the next one when I got some tips to hand out, which I will. I like to talk about what I've been through, and I like to talk about what I learned from that situation. That's kind of how I do things. But also, I have learned that I do tend to ramble on when something gets uncomfortable, or I will make a joke that may not be funny to you, but for me, it helps me get through it, but it helps me still share. And it adds, I don't want to say a positive spin because trauma is not positive, but it does help me get through it and speak through it. So we all have our kinks that make people, our quirks that make people uncomfortable. So today I am rocking the Worthy Always sweater by me, Carter Love, because I really needed that help to push through this. Because I decided this week I was giving myself one of my lovely pep talks. I do verbal. Yeah, I do audible journaling. So I journal audibly. Like I hit my little voice memo and I do journals. And so if there's something that's on my mind, I'll start venting about it. But then before that vent is over, oh, I'm feeding to myself. I'm giving myself life. I'm um, giving myself affirmations and I'm connecting them to why I feel that way. But then I remind myself that, honey, you're not there anymore. You're not You're not in that trauma anymore. You're not that kid anymore. You're able to protect yourself now. And so I really just go deep into that. And I was giving myself one of those talks, and I was like, damn, you're ready. You're ready to share your story. I remember I kind of knew my purpose a long time ago, but it scared the hell out of me because that meant that I needed to stand up and say what happened to me. That meant I needed to accept what happened to me. And for me, that was ugly. For me, what happened to me was disgusting. And so um, I didn't want to, I wasn't ready. Not that I didn't want to, I just wasn't ready. But over the course of the last few weeks, attending my model society class and just seeing what I'm capable of and seeing the impact that I could have, and just a lot of things that I just learned over the last 6 weeks have really inspired me and really opened my eyes to what my purpose is. Because when I found out that my why was believing that I am worthy of success and love and all these things, just truly believing that and stepping into that, I realized that that's something that other people may need help with. I realized that everyone's not going to love therapy like I love therapy because I love therapy, but I'm also training to be a therapist. So, of course, I love therapy. So, I just realizing that has really helped me suck it up like like, and really helped me accept what I went through, accept how it shaped me and molded me, um, and truly just dive into that and dive into the healing and share my story and help people however I can. Um, so yeah, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. I don't know where I'm going with all of this. To be honest, I just know that I have a message. I have some notes here, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to steer away from them because that's what I do. Um, so basically, let's talk about self-love and being authentic. It's something that a lot of us struggle with. It's funny to me because when we're struggling with it, we feel small. We feel like, damn, like, why can't I just accept who I am and be who I am? It sounds like to me, it sounds so crazy. Like, how can you not love yourself? Like, you know what I mean? It sounds crazy, but so many of us are going through it, and so many of us have been through it. And sometimes it's because of trauma, sometimes it's because of society, sometimes it's because of the people we surround ourselves with. Who are you surrounding yourself with? That's something for you to marinate on, okay? But it's a lot of things that can cause that, and as you learn and grow, you'll figure out what it is and you'll know how to adjust that. And for me, that's what it was. It started with my trauma, but then it was the people I surrounded myself with, then it was my family, then it was society, and all of that confirmed the lies that my trauma was telling me. And so I had to dig and comb through all those lies. And I think that's why, to me, that's why a lot of people don't do it, because they have to dig through all the stuff that they were taught over the years. This stuff was taught to me as a child. My trauma taught me this. My parents' reaction to my trauma taught me this. My body's reaction to my trauma taught me this. The world I was around taught me, you know what I mean? So I can go on and on about what taught me this, okay? So so the key is, sometimes it's not so much understanding why. Sometimes I used to, it used to help me so much, but sometimes it drives me crazy trying to understand why people do what they do. What is important is understanding why your mind thinks this way so that you can correct it. um so mine's, as I said, started with my trauma. As a child, I was a victim of sexual abuse, and I did not feel like I was protected or comforted or nurtured. And this started so young. And I confided in a parent, and the parent didn't do anything to protect me. So I began to feel like I was unworthy of protection, and I was unworthy of love, and that my body was just to serve someone else. And so as I grew up, like, I just kind of grew into that. Because honestly, too, if you think about it, too, because I didn't have a view of relationships, I was taught by TV and music. And in TV and music, like, it's a lot of times, like, I've been listening to some songs that I loved when I was growing up, and they was talking about how they don't care about sharing a man and this and that. And I'm like, damn, I was listening to this when I was going through all that shit. Um, the thing is, like, we learn all this stuff without subconsciously. And so it's just, this stuff just kind of seeps in. And is it, I feel like I said the wrong one, but anyways, so the thing is, I felt like that's what I wasn't worthy of love. I wasn't worthy of respect. um I wasn't worthy of um pleasure, because I went into relationships thinking that it was my job to please him, not for me to get pleasure, because that's what happened to me. Um, when this stuff happened to me, the parent, of course, didn't know how to handle it until they dealt with it in their way. They dealt with it in the way that they thought was best. And my other parent was nowhere to be found. So that just kind of solidified the feeling of me not being worthy, right? Because there's a parent that's absent and there's a parent that's neglectful. And so that just, these are your parents, right? So you're like, okay, well, if they don't think I'm worthy and they created me, well, fuck, I must not be worthy. Um, and so it's just a lot of that feeds into you, especially as a child. And so you grow up carrying that until you decide to heal it, until you decide to look in the mirror and unpack all of that. And so I went into a relationship where I felt like I needed to serve him. And so it felt like I was being controlled, and it felt like I had to chip away parts of me because he wanted me. And so I would go into relationships based off their attracted to their feelings because they wanted me, and I grew up feeling unwanted. And so I would gravitate towards that. Um, and sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I catch myself doing it. But the good thing is I catch myself. I didn't figure this out until like 5 to 6 years into a marriage. Okay. So it took me a while to realize what my trauma, how my trauma was affecting my current relationships. um Even friendships, it's affected that too, so it's really connecting to I don't want to say connecting to where we all know why. We know what the big thing is that makes us feel this. We may not know the ins and outs, but we know where it started. Sometimes we don't want to face it, and so we act as if we don't know it. That's not something that we do purposely. um, Sometimes our brain tries to protect us and it hides things from us, and when we're ready to heal from it, it will start to reveal it. And it gets tricky for sure. Let me drink some water. but um but yeah, so how did I begin to heal from all of this? Honestly, for the longest time, because I grew up religious. So I was in high school, I was in church like every day. um probably had like 2 days off, but I was in there every day. Okay. And so um I thought I was cool, you know. I forgave in my mind, I forgave who did it to me. I forgave my parents. I loved them, so I felt like I forgave them, right? So I felt good. I felt like I was okay. I felt like I was doing the right thing. I was on the right track. I ended up getting married, and so I thought, oh, I'm loved, I feel successful. Then that marriage failed, and I went into another one, and I felt loved, um and I had my kids, and everyone in my family, not everyone in my family, but people in my family were telling me, you survived. You're living a good life. You have 2 kids. You have a husband. You're good. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm good, right? I'm convincing myself. I'm putting myself in the box that they put me in. So in my mind, I'm convincing myself I'm okay because they said I was okay. And I had let's call her a friend. I had a friend confiding in me because she had went through a similar background as me. And so I was letting her vent to me, and I got triggered. And I didn't know it was a trigger at the time. I did not know at all. And at the time, the second husband, me and him were on the outs. And just before that, me and my closest friend, like we stopped being friends. So I'm like, okay, I can't lean on this person. I can't lean on this person. Who am I going to lean on? Because I have 2 kids who are relying on me to have good mental health. Okay. I had already started my fitness journey, and that was helping me. It was helping me. Shanti, thank you. Elise, thank you. Joel, thank you. Beachbody, yes. So I was a Beachbody advocate. Okay, I was actually trying to sell it, but it never worked out for me. It did what it needed to do. It helped me heal. So I was doing Beachbody. I was working out, and I was beginning to heal. I was beginning to open up these wounds. I was triggered, and that was opening up old wounds. And I just was like, I don't like this negative self talk. I don't like the way I feel. I felt very unprotected. This was during COVID time too. So I was already anxious about that stuff. Um, and so I got a therapist. I made the decision to get a therapist because it is covered under my insurance. And I've been in therapy for about 4 or 5 years now. And that was like the game changer for me. Um, and so that's how I started my self love journey. That's how I started unpacking all of this stuff. It definitely helps to have a professional to help you unpack this stuff because the internet is going to tell you some stuff and you're going to spiral. I'm telling y'all, I do it myself. So I love psychology, right? I have an AA in psychology. I've always loved psychology. And I read psychology books that end up being self-help books, and I also read some self-help books, and so I would find things and then I would start like, okay, so I need to fix this, like, and I would go on these spirals, and it was like I felt like there was something wrong with me because I wasn't able to accept what happened to me. I wasn't able to accept the way my parents handled it, and I felt like there was something wrong with me, and I felt like the only way I would be worthy of love is if I fixed myself. If I fixed all these little things that my 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 body and my mind and things decided to do in response to what happened to me, in response to my parents' reaction, in response to my family's reaction, in response to the fact that the people that were closest to me that I would lean on, I'm now having issues with them, right? So um so I leaned into therapy, and it was very helpful for me, but like I said, I would still spiral a lot. So we introduced the first thing we did was introducing 60 beats per minute because I lived in a fight or flight state. I still kind of do, but I've been getting acupuncture and I've been feeling good. So I'm going to say lived, okay? We're going to claim that, okay? I'm in the rest and digest stage. Um, so I lived in a fight or flight stage, which means that when you get scared and you're ready, you either know you need to fight or you need to run. And so your heart races, your heart rate is up, your resting heart rate is up, okay, when you live in that stage. And that can be very damaging in so many ways, and we can dive into that on another one because I've been doing some research on that. But anyways, so I lived in a fight or flight state. And so the first thing she wanted to do was calm that down so that it can calm down my anxiety. So I started listening to 60 beats per minute. You can literally go on YouTube and type in 60 beats per minute, and some frequency music is going to come up, and it helps lower your heart rate. It helps your heart rate to slow down to the beat of the music. So then that your resting heart rate is the average resting heart rate and not sky high. Um, so we started there. Then we started on my self speech. My self talk was so negative. Like if something happened, and it could be the slightest thing. I tripped over a toy and my foot was hurting, and I said, "You know what? You must have deserved that shit." Like what? So it could be the smallest thing, and it was to me, it was so bad. It was like like your worst enemy was talking mess, okay? And I didn't like it at all. And so then we started with affirmations. Which I was already familiar with affirmations. I wasn't heavy on them, but I feel like there's like a piece of lint in my hair that I keep seeing. Anyways, I wasn't as heavy on them as I am now. Now I'm like I feel like I can say that I am the affirmation queen, okay? Cuz honey, I can pour out some affirmations, okay? I record them, I listen to them, I post them up all over the place. You tell me you got a problem, and I got some affirmations for you, honey. So, affirmations were so big. I can hear the kids about to come in here, so we're gonna pause. Okay, so then we went into affirmations. We started with I am enough. Then after some I don't know how long, y'all, I've been in therapy for so long. After a while, we went into, like, I would just share things, if I had like a memory, because I had intrusive thoughts really bad. Those are thoughts that you cannot control. Those are thoughts that they just come frequently. They're usually connected to your trauma. Now, this is not the official definition. Y'all can Google it. Intrusive thoughts. So I was having intrusive thoughts. I would share them with her. She would give me affirmations. At first, she was giving me affirmations. based off what I was telling her, then I would start doing them myself, as well as still listening to the 60 beats per minute. So it was just like building on the treatment. So I was keeping up with my fitness. I was doing the affirmations. I was doing the 60 beats per minute. And then I'm a journal fanatic. Okay. So I was journaling a lot. um and just really being open and honest. I know sometimes I was honest with my therapist, but sometimes when I was ashamed of stuff, it would take me a few weeks to open up to her about it. She just congratulated me last week because I told her about something the day after it happened instead of 2 weeks later. Yay me. Okay, so anyways, um so it's the thing is, it's like what they always say, you accept what happened. I don't want to say that because I don't even think I accepted what happened until I really don't feel like I accepted what happened to me until like this year. And that's what allowed me to step into this role right here. That's what allowed me to come on the podcast and talk about what happened to me and share my story so I can help other people and so I can help myself. I'm not even going to lie, because the more I share it, the more I talk through it, the more I grow, the more I work with my therapist, all of the things that I'm doing, it's just helping me be more and more comfortable being myself. Um, that is the power of vulnerability, honey. So that's the next topic. So I realized that, well, I shared something with her and she realized that I had an issue with shame. So I'm like, okay, so now I got to figure out this shame thing, right? I said this to, this is another good thing about being transparent, y'all. So I said this to someone while I was out, and she was like, oh, you need to read Berne Brown. And I said, who is Berne Brown? You don't know who Berne Brown is? And Berne Brown, she studies shame. And she also has so she has there's so many videos, and I think she has a book about shame. I've read them. I don't remember their titles. Um I'm gonna make a note to include them in the description. Berne Brown books that I've read. um, but she has one on vulnerability and she has one on shame. I studied it because I did, like, after my therapist said I had shame and I started um listening to Berne Brown, I was like, oh my goodness. And so that helped me so much. And it also really reshaped the way I viewed vulnerability. Because a lot of us were taught that it's a weakness, especially, I don't want to say especially as women, because women and men being vulnerable makes them look weak. Women being vulnerable makes us look like we're irrational. Like, oh, there she goes again with her hormones and her emotions, and there she goes again crying. And like with men, it's like, be a man. Stop all that crying and whining and complaining. It's just a lot of extra shit, y'all. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry. And that's one of the biggest things for me, is like learning to feel my feelings, because I used to just be like, nah, push them down. I gotta keep going. I got kids to take care of. I don't have time for these tears right now. Make time. Because honestly, sometimes it don't even take that long. You cry and you feel better. I cry and I feel refreshed. And usually my mind is so much clearer after I've cried and I can think better. It's just like they say, like, you cannot make a decision when you're being emotional, whether that's anger or sadness or whatever. When you're emotional, you cannot make a decision. Let yourself feel that feeling. Then after that, you'll see what the feeling is trying to tell you, because feelings, emotions, they are messages. They are trying to tell you what's what. Okay. um so let them do that, and then you'll know how to move forward. Can't move forward without the message. Usually if you do, you end up regretting it. Okay, honey. It's a mistake and you may not see it right away, but later on you're gonna be like, damn, I shouldn't have did that, man. So um did the Brene Brown, got connected with my vulnerability, um And so those are just some of the ways that I have began to heal through what I went through. But I really feel like it built up to what I have just accomplished. And so on a day-to-day base, let's rewind before I started getting acupuncture. I had a lot of changes at the beginning of this year, like so many. So my year begins in November because that's when I was born. So November 18th is my start year. And so I had so many changes. I had to move, and I had to be moved out by January, and that was very challenging for me. Um, and then I lost my brother in the beginning of the year, and then when I moved, I had to give away my dog of 5 years, um, and we moved. That was another change, and um, and then I had to let go of a friend that I had been friends with for so long. And all of these changes happened so fast at the same time, basically. And I still have to get up and show up and be myself. I still have to get up and show up and be a mom. I'm in school. My son is homeschooled. And so I'm like spread thin. Um, and so my PTSD, I don't want to say it was activated because it's there, but it was just like so much more present for me. Um, so I was very sensitive to sound. I was very sensitive to being touched, especially if I don't see it coming. I was like very like my skin would crawl. And my son, he's 6, so he likes to do that thing, the little ninja thing where like you're walking and they're like this close behind you, and then you turn around and they turn around, and it makes my skin crawl. Okay, it does, and he thinks it's hilarious every time I flip out about it. And so it's like things like that. Like people are not gonna know that they trigger you. They're not gonna know that they trigger you. And sometimes you can't even pinpoint why you're triggered. And sometimes if you do know why you're triggered and a person triggers you, you kind of feel some type of way about them. And so what I've learned is it's not exactly the responsibility of the other person to be mindful of your triggers. What's what is what's what needs to happen is you have to face them. And I don't mean go out and do things that you know are going to trigger you. I mean learning how to calm yourself, learning how to comfort yourself, learning how to be your own safe space. And that is the biggest thing that I've learned this year is that I am my safe space. I forgive myself for the things that I did wrong. I take responsibility for the things that I did wrong, and I move on. And I acknowledge my triggers. I acknowledge how I'm feeling. Sometimes when I'm vulnerable, I get defensive, and when I feel it, I'm like, I'm vulnerable and it's okay. You have to say it. You have to name the feeling. That's another thing that my therapist taught me that I didn't quite understand because I'm like, sometimes I don't even know how I'm feeling, lady. But as I've grown and I've gotten to know myself, I now know what I feel because I can tell the way my body changes. And so I will say what I'm feeling. I'm uncomfortable because of this. And sometimes that's the other thing. Sometimes I don't know. Like I was triggered at a meeting and I didn't know why. I couldn't understand why I was in tears. And I went on a walk, and as I went on that walk, the answers came to me. Not to mention, while I was on that walk, I did an audio journal. Sometimes we will vent to people We will vent to people and they will add fuel to the fire, okay? Because your assumptions that you're making, you will share with that person, and that person will just add on. Or sometimes they'll basically make it seem like you're over exaggerating. And this, I don't think it's, if there's someone you're comfortable with venting to, it's not usually their intention. But sometimes you need to talk it out yourself. You have the answers. The answers are within you. When it comes to your feelings and your mood and all of that, you know your history. It's all inside of you. You know your history. You know, how your body responds to different things. You just have to connect with it. You just have to get in there. And I feel like the audio journals have helped me so much with that part of my journey. Uh, excuse me. Um, that has probably been like the biggest game changer for me, because I was a person who I don't want to say I didn't trust myself, but I think I didn't trust myself. Like, I didn't trust my judgment, because um sometimes my traumas needs, like my inner child's needs, were bigger than me. It felt like it, like I said, I was in a relationship with someone, attracted to how they felt about me, not attracted to them as a person. That was a trauma thing. He wanted me, and so I was attracted to him wanting me. You know what I mean? So after going through that in different relationships, it was hard for me to trust my judgment of my feelings. But that's because I wasn't connecting with myself. I wasn't connecting with what happened to me. I wasn't taking ownership and all of those things, right? So I went on the walk, I talked myself through it, and then I was like, okay, this your reaction is to for the past. Hold on, the kids are coming again. My re response was for what happened to me in the past, but it was a message for what I needed to do in this present moment. There was a boundary that was being crossed that I didn't know I needed. And so I was able to process that and work through that and decide what boundary I needed to set. And it took me all these years. And I'm not complaining. I'm grateful for it. I'm excited to see where it goes from here and how it builds. It's really cool because before I would come to therapy and I'd be like, oh my god, this is happening, and I'd be like spiraling and talking really fast and I would feel like I was doing this, and then it was stressful because after immediately following therapy, after I worked through whatever we worked through, I would have to go to work. And I would have to do therapy because I was a behavior therapist. And so I wasn't able to really process everything until like Friday, because my therapy's on Thursday. And so it was really a lot. But now I'm at a point where when I go to therapy, it's more like an update. And then like if I have like a small like insecurity, or like there was a little miscommunication or whatever, I'm able to talk with her about that, and we're able to connect it, or we're able to give me some tools to set a boundary or whatever, whatever, whatever. But the thing is, because what happened to me is like never going to be erased from my mind. um, and the triggers will be there. It's just learning how to work through them. And when you meet different people and connect with different people, like it's just like this, you're constantly growing and evolving, and it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be there. So I of course I still go to therapy, not to mention I've gotten to the point where now I talk to myself in my journals, and I talk to her about big things. If there's something more, I have a handful of people that I can go to talk to about specific things, but it's really, really, really important that you realize you cannot talk to anybody about everything. Um, and venting is good. It's good for you. Oh my god, I think the kids are coming again. Um, no, they're not. They're getting water. Venting is good. But it's important that the person you are venting to is a safe space. And um, sometimes our friendships and our relationships are unhealthy, and so they're not technically a safe space. And that's something that I'm learning right now. That is one of the biggest things that I'm learning is how to operate in a healthy relationship, because I do feel like I have developed some healthy relationships, but it's also learning things that what makes a relationship unhealthy. That's one of the biggest things that I'm learning right now, because I've found myself in unhealthy romantic relationships, friendships, and business relationships. So I know that that's what I saw growing up, and that's what I repeated. I know that that's what I entered into my early adulthood, and so I have to unlearn some things. And okay, so my phone cut me off. Um, but I just want to say that with all that happened to me and in my life and all the ins and outs, I just want to say that if I can do it, you can too. I want to remind you that you are worthy always. Um, as Viola Davis says, we were born worthy. We came out of our mother's womb worthy, and we don't have to fight for it. We don't have to pay for it. We were just born this way. And so if someone is treating you unworthy, um, then it's time for you to stand up and declare your worth. And sometimes that means releasing them. Um, and sometimes that means accepting that they have issues of their own, and that's none of your business. Right now, it's time to focus on you and to put yourself first and to put your worth first. And so I really want to encourage you to say that affirmation. Um, Look in the mirror and say that affirmation. I am worthy. I am worthy always. I am always worthy. However you want to word it, honey. Even if you need to make it specific, because for me, with modeling, sometimes if I got triggered during a shoot or during a class, I would say, well, why are you doing this then? Maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this isn't for someone who's been a victim of sexual abuse. And so I had to remind myself that I'm worthy of success. I'm worthy of my dreams. I'm worthy of doing what I love. I'm worthy of presenting this part of me to the world. And I am worthy of love. I'm worthy of respect. That was another one that I had to really instill, because I kind of lost that. The friendships and the relationships that I was in recently, I felt disrespected, and I felt like it was okay because they were people that I loved. And so I had to remind myself, I'm worthy of respect. I'm worthy of loyalty. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of trust. I'm worthy of honesty. I am worthy of honesty, honey. And so whatever you need to remind yourself that you are worthy of, be specific. Do all of them if you need to do all of them. But just remember that you are, and you don't have to fight for it. You don't have to fight for love. You don't have to fight for your worth. Um, and it comes from within first. We're always looking for it on the outside, but it comes from within first. Um, and so again, I say be respectful, but if you have any questions, comments, if there's anything you want me to dive deeper in another video, go ahead and put those in the comments, or you can message me directly. I don't believe YouTube allows you to do that, but my Instagram and all that stuff is connected to my YouTube. So feel free, because for the most part, of course, I have boundaries. I know how to set boundaries now. Yay. I do have boundaries, but for the most part, I am an open book. So like, let's say within reason, I'm an open book. So that is it. We gonna close it out now. I gotta go feed these kids. That's why they keep coming in here. They want some food. So I'm gonna go feed my little babies. And then I will see you guys next time. Remember that you are worthy always.